You know that one thing we all seem to want? To be smarter? We're pretty much raised to believe that a high IQ is the ultimate advantage in life. But what if it's not the golden ticket we all imagine it to be? Today, we're going to look at a totally different and yeah, kind of darker side to being brilliant. I mean, think about it. From day one in school, we're taught that being smart is the fast track to success. It means better grades, which leads to better colleges, which hopefully leads to better jobs. It's treated like this undeniable asset, a superpower for navigating, well, pretty much everything. But is that really the whole story? What if, for a very specific group of really intelligent people, that amazing gift actually comes with the hidden psychological price tag? What if being smarter somehow makes life harder? And that's exactly what we're diving into. We're not talking about super genius, off-the-charts intellect here. We're zooming in on a very specific band of high intelligence, the 120 to 130 IQ range. This, right here, is where a unique kind of mental pressure starts to build. Some psychologists have a name for this whole experience. They call it the cognitive crucible. It's a great term, right? A crucible is where you put stuff under intense heat and pressure to transform it. Well, in this case, all that pressure is mental, and it forges a very particular and often difficult internal struggle. So, you're probably wondering, where does this pressure even come from? Well, it really all boils down to one fundamental imbalance, a core psychological tension that we're about to break down. This quote just nails it. People in this IQ range have the brain power to see the world's deep, messy, systemic flaws. They see it in politics, at their own jobs, even in their personal relationships. But here's the catch. Seeing a problem with crystal clear, high-definition vision is not at all the same thing as being able to fix it. And here's that gap, laid out plain as day. On one side, you've got this enormous, heavy awareness of massive, complex issues, global problems, huge existential questions. And on the other side, the simple reality that you're just one person with limited power, limited influence. It's this profound mismatch between what you can see and what you can do that really fuels this whole curse. Okay, so what does this tension actually feel like in your day-to-day life? Well, the first brutal burden is something I think a lot of us can relate to, but for this group, it gets turned up to 11. It's the overthinking loop. And let's be clear, this isn't just your standard issue worrying. Nope. This is a very specific cognitive pattern where your brain's greatest strength, its analytical power, actually turns into a weakness. Instead of helping you make a decision, it just leads to a total standstill. We're talking true analysis paralysis. Let's just walk through this cycle because it's pretty wild. It starts off looking super productive. You've got a problem, maybe a big career choice. Your brain, being the powerhouse it is, instantly comes up with like 20 different solutions. But then, that same powerful brain starts dissecting every single one of those options, pointing out every possible risk, every fatal flaw. Before you know it, you've concluded that no path is perfect, so you end up choosing none of them. You're literally trapped by your own intelligence. All right, the second major burden is just as counterintuitive. It's this constant, draining battle between having incredibly high standards for yourself and the rock-bottom personal satisfaction that seems to come with it. You see, the ability to envision what perfect could look like, whether it's for a project at work, a piece of art, or just your own performance, it's a classic double-edged sword. On one hand, it pushes you to do incredible things. But on the other, it means you are painfully, acutely aware of every little gap between the reality you've created and that perfect ideal in your head. This chart just says it all. Look at this. Objectively, you might be knocking it out of the park, performing at 95%, a total rock star. But subjectively, in your own head, because you're laser focused on that tiny 5% that isn't perfect, your personal satisfaction plummets to like 40%. You end up living in this constant state of feeling like you're failing, even when everyone around you sees nothing but success. So after all that, what are we supposed to take away from this? Honestly, digging into this cognitive crucible really forces us to completely reframe how we think about intelligence in the first place. So let's just quickly recap these burdens, right? You've got that constant, grinding tension of seeing problems you can't possibly solve. You've got the analysis paralysis that spins out of the overthinking loop. And you have that chronic feeling of dissatisfaction that comes from having impossibly high standards. You know, we tend to think of intelligence as a simple tool, like a hammer. It's always useful, always good for building things up. But maybe it's more complicated than that. Maybe in the wrong circumstances, it can also be a tool for building your very own cage. And that leaves us with a pretty massive question. We spend so much of our lives trying to get smarter, assuming it's the key to, well, everything. But if a high IQ isn't the ultimate answer to a happy, fulfilling life, then what is?